What's up, internet? My name is Kyle, back with another video about cameras, tech, and all that good stuff. Today, we are talking about the Sony 16-55 G Lens F2.8. I've had it for a couple weeks, been shooting, testing it out, and I'm impressed. So before we jump into talking about the lens, huge shout out to Lens Rentals and Sony for hooking me up with this early version of the lens. Really appreciate it. Without them, we wouldn't have a video. So this isn't going to be a super technical review. I'm gonna show you guys some photo examples in a minute or two, but I'm also gonna talk about what I think the lens is good for, and also maybe a couple reasons why you would spend the money on this lens. So that brings us to when this lens was announced, it was a little shocking at first at how much this lens costs. So this lens comes in at a whopping $1,400 US, and I know a lot of people who watch my channel have an A6000 or a Canon M50, and $1,400 is a lot more than the actual camera than you have. Now, I was actually in the boat, and I still kind of am. I think it's overpriced. I mean, there's a few reasons why it's priced the way it is, but I was hoping that it was gonna be like $800 or $850 when I heard, the focal length and the aperture. I was like, $850, I will buy that shit in a heartbeat, but $1,400 is what we got. After 2 weeks of using it, I would definitely pay $1,000 for it. I definitely think it's worth, quadruple digits, 1,000 buckaroos, but $1,400, that's just getting up there in price. The Sony A6600, which I'm also filming on right now, shout out to Lens Rentals and Sony, is also $1,400. So a $1,400 camera accompanied with a $1,400 lens, you're almost hitting $3,000 at that point, and it's not a full frame camera setup. It's a little puzzling. So at that point, do you go full frame or do you just want the smaller size? There's a lot of moving parts in this discussion, so let's get a little further into it. So why is this thing $1,400? Well, one, obviously it has superior build quality. It is a Sony G Lens after all, has that configurable button on the side. The focus rings are great. It does extend physically. It doesn't have internal zooming like the 18-105 F4 G lens. So in my opinion, that's a little bit of a downside with this lens. So it's not going to be super stable on a gimbal if you zoom in. So that's actually another point to make. If you're a video shooter, the 18-105 may be better unless you're going to just, work with, zooming out the lens and then having to readjust your gimbal. So that's a thought for all you gimbal or cinematographers out there. So it has, the higher build quality. It also has, better grade mechanics on the inside of the lens. So that's gonna drive up the price a bit. Also, this is the fastest zoom lens for Sony APS-C cameras, period. This is a f2.8, so it's gonna be better in low light than say the 18-105 f4. Another reason why it may be more expensive is a zoom lens. Zoom lenses are typically more expensive than a prime lens. You have multiple focal lengths that you can use rather than just one fixed focal length. So those factors kind of contribute to the high sticker price. It's not what everybody wanted. Nobody out there was like, hey, I'll just pay $1,400 for it. But some people are willing to pay that, and there are a couple of reasons why you may want to pick up this lens. But before we get into those reasons, I think it's worth kind of just getting to the meat of it and showing you some photos that I've taken in the past week or two with the A6600 and the 16-55 f2.8 G Lens. So take a look for yourself. So after seeing some example photos, what do you guys think? Keep in mind, these are all JPEG images, and if I did shoot them raw, I converted them to JPEG, no editing whatsoever, so just straight out of camera, more or less, and that's what you got. I know it's always weird showing photos in a YouTube video, it gets compressed, it's different on a different screen and all that stuff, but overall, I am very impressed with the image quality that comes from this lens. And to prove a point, I want to show you guys photos taken with this new lens, this $1,400 beast, on the 5-year-old A6000 and also the A6600, which isn't even out yet. And I want to compare them. So this is going to be a little quick guessing game. I'm going to put one camera, camera A, let's say, on the left and camera B on the right. I tried to take as similar photos as I possibly could. And after you see the photos, guess which one you think the A6000 is. So which one is the older camera? Is it camera A or is it camera B? Go. Okay, so now what do you think? You saw pictures taken on a 5-year-old, pretty much $500 or less camera with this $1,400 lens, and then a $1,400 camera, brand new, top of the line APS-C from Sony with the top of the line $1,400 lens. Do you think they are drastically different? Do you think they are indistinguishable, like they're super similar? What are your thoughts on that? I think it just goes to show that, you know, camera bodies can be different in price drastically by, you know, almost $1,000, but the image quality really comes from the lens that is on the sensor. Now, of course, these two cameras have very similar, if not the exact same sensor on them. So of course they're gonna come out and look similar, but I kind of just wanted to drive the point that you can have a cheaper body on a very expensive lens and still get kind of, you know, similar, if not exact image quality of a more expensive camera body. It's not always about the camera body. A lot of the times, most of the time, it's about the lens, it's about the glass that you put on the camera body. So one of the beautiful things about having a zoom lens like the 16-55 is that it can replace other lenses that you have. This lens is clearly a replacement of the kit lens. If you have the kit lens and you get this lens, you're never gonna use the kit lens again unless you want something that's absolutely tiny and you can't have something that's bigger on your camera at the moment. But it essentially replaces the kit lens, and then it can replace even like 2 primes that you may have. If you have the 30mm 1.4 Sigma, or if you have the Pancake Sony lenses, one of the 2 of those, I mean, it can replace multiple lenses from your kit because it's a zoom lens of a nice range, and it doesn't have a too slow of an aperture. It's an f2.8. Now I know the Sigma Trio are all f1.4, and you may really need that, and if you do, that's fine. But a zoom lens like this that has f2.8, it can replace a lot of other lenses that you have, so it could be an option for you to sell some of your lenses and get a one-size-fits-all solution, and then you don't have to switch lenses, you don't have to have separate compartments in your bag. You might not even need a bag at that point. You just carry the body and the lens that you use for most situations, and you're more prepared. And sometimes convenience like that makes photography that much more enjoyable. So I know it's an expensive lens, but if it meant, you know, going from 3 or 4 lenses to 1 lens, which would you rather do? Would you rather use the 1 lens, or would you rather switch back and forth between the other lenses? It's definitely something to think about. Now, most of the time with zoom lenses, they're usually not as sharp as, say, you know, a prime lens that is in the focal length, say 30mm, you know, the Sigma f1.4. It's a very sharp lens. Unfortunately, I don't have that lens, but I've seen all of the reviews that you guys have seen, and it's an amazing lens. However, this lens is very, very sharp all through its range, and dare I say, it might be the sharpest lens that I've ever used. I've sang praises of the Sony 50mm f1.8. This lens is really sharp though, and it goes to 50mm at 2.8, and it goes to 55mm at 2.8. So it's no slouch in the portrait game. Now, one could argue that, you know, multiple lenses don't even add up to the sticker price of this lens, and you're not wrong. You know, math is math. But again, it kind of just goes back to the convenience thing. It's like, do you want one lens to rule them all, or do you want multiple lenses that each do something good, but you have to switch them out? Whereas this lens, you may just be able to sit it on your camera and that's it. Now, of course, if you're a professional or semi-professional and you're making money off of your photography equipment, this may have just been a no-brainer from the start, or it may be something that you're not willing to dive all in on because you have other lenses that you utilize during a shoot and it's not a big deal to switch lenses and stuff like that. But I think for like a traveler or maybe even a blogger or a YouTuber, this lens is pretty valuable. It might be worth the steep sticker price. Now, you've seen some example images. If you want to see example video, my last video, which I made about the Nikon Z50, is shot entirely with the 6600 and the 16-55 2.8 lens. This is shot with the 6600 and the Sigma 16mm f1.4. So not the same thing. Go check out the Nikon video I made. It is shot exclusively on the lens we're talking about. I don't know. For photo though, I'm kind of really liking it. I'm trying to think of anything else. Oh, there is one other thing. The minimum focusing distance isn't as great as, say, like the 16mm Sigma f1.4. I really enjoy getting close to things. I think I've told you guys before. It's just like my style of photography. I like to get a close perspective, but also shoot wide and wide open. It's a little harder to do that with this lens. I'll put the minimum focusing distance on the screen. I don't remember it offhand, but very small nitpick, I feel like. I felt like I was shooting more at 55mm with this lens than, say, 16. But the whole point of having a zoom lens is that you can shoot at 16. You can shoot at 35. You can shoot at 55. I carry around the Sony 35mm f1.8 everywhere. That's usually what's on my camera. But if I had this on my camera all the time, I could shoot at different focal lengths without switching lenses or buying other lenses. I could just have one. I don't know. Am I gonna buy it? No. Am I? I don't know. Okay, that is it. Now we're done. I said we were done like 5 minutes ago. We're done now. That is all my thoughts on the Sony 16-55 f2.8 G Lens. What are your thoughts? Talk to me down below. Talk to me about the price. Talk to me about the sharpness, all that good stuff. And I will see you guys in the next episode. Later. Also, yes, I have a giant pimple on my head. You know, just ignore it. Just pretend it's not there. IAF, get the eye, not the pimple. Thanks.